Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight we're going to talk about how we're going to talk about the Patriot Front, that whole thing over the 4th of July weekend. We're going to be talking about how the Democrats are always stepping on their own foot, and we're going to be talking about how to spot a Fed because these days everybody's considered a Fed. How do you like them apples? Let's just dive straight into it real quick. I will say, I hope you guys had a great 4th of July weekend. I certainly did with my family. It's been fun. It's been a lot of fun watching the news streams, so on and so forth. But also, I am in the process of trying to build my X account and my Instagram account. Both of those have been shadow banned hardcore. Do check them out. I think I've been getting a lot of traction going on lately. So please, if you don't mind, you guys can see that the links here in the whatever whatever they call that thing. I know. I'm telling you, man. I do these shows so late, and I'm always like always super tired. And I'm just like, dude, I'm like a dad of like three kids, and I'm like always tired, but I'm just gonna do it anyway because nighttime is when it happens. I've been trying to do the pregame shows early and then pre-record, but I just find it easier to do it at night. And I know we're running a little bit late tonight, but it's because like I am always fiddling around with shit like that. Like, yeah, I'm old. I said the word fiddle. I don't care. I'm always messing around with stuff. But let's dive straight into it tonight. We got Nick talking about the Patriot Front, and then we're going to talk about this is episode 7. What is this? 1710 that we're going to talk about tonight. This is from his last show last night on 7-6. Tonight is 7-7, right? Is tonight? Yeah, it's 7-7. And where it's really some good stuff, dude, especially when he talks about being a Fed and what that means. Let's just go ahead and jump straight into this. We're going to get into hour, 2 hours and 43 minutes in about the Patriot Front.
Oh, anyway, that's that. I do want to move on, though. I want to move on. I want to get into our news here. And our first story is about Patriot Front, shifting gears a little bit. And maybe this is going to seem a little bit contradictory, but on that note, I want to get into this big rally by Patriot Front over the weekend, which I'm sure you've all seen. Patriot Front, the white nationalist organization, held a major choreographed demonstration in D.C. on the 4th of July for America 250. It caused a lot of buzz, a lot of headlines. Everybody was talking about it. Usual suspects were calling them feds. Republican Congresswoman Anna Perina Luna even said she's going to launch an investigation to see if they are feds. The left said they're Nazis. Now, to their credit, the demonstration was, on a technical level, extremely impressive. 400.
It's true. I work in logistics. The logistics it takes to run 400 men. And I was watching an episode with this guy who is the main guy, I forget his name, on Jake Shields today. And I know Jake Shields is not a friend of Groyper's anymore, but I always, the saying is keep your friends close, keep your enemies even closer, and keep their enemies closest. If that's not a saying, if that third person not a saying, I just made it up, but it's true. And basically, this guy talked about, he had a lot of good things to say about Nick, about how the good things that Nick said in this episode, but also the logistics and run of this thing. They were like teaching them how to do like marches and shit like that. And they have like they have this like massive, they vet these guys hardcore in order to be in. And it's like you have to be like 75% white, 75% white Caucasian to even be in this group, which I wouldn't even qualify. I don't know if I would qualify. My father's from Puerto Rico, Kirill. He has like a Puerto Ricans, at least in my family and in my family's background. we have like 60-70% European, and then the rest is like the actual natives of Puerto Rico. And my mom is Scots English. That's my background. I don't even know if I'd be invited in this group. But however, the way that they ran this whole thing was actually pretty impressive, and they did a really great job. They did a really good job. And Nick's he's gonna have his criticisms. We'll get into that. But I thought from a logistical standpoint, they did a great job. It's not that easy to do. And they're all not getting paid, and they're all volunteering.
People, they say, in total. And the group got in, did their demonstration, got out without any hitch. No violence, no drama, no problems. Nobody was arrested. As far as we know, nobody was doxxed. Got in and out very clean. And I will say, as somebody that's done events and somebody that's done not necessarily things like that, but things of a similar nature, that's really hard to do.
Yep.
It's really hard to get 400 people to show up anywhere in uniform, with the choreography, with the equipment, get them in, get them out, put them up in a hotel or wherever. The logistics, the details, extremely challenging and requires real expertise, technical know-how, organizational skill. And so I don't think people even really respect that enough. Maybe they underestimate how difficult that is. And so I commend them. It was a job well done. And this is a story about it. This is from Politico. It says, quote, demonstrators donning the logo and insignia of Patriot Front, a white supremacist group, were seen protesting in the Eastern Market neighborhood and on Capitol Hill on the 250th anniversary of American independence, sporting white masks, sunglasses, and Patriot Front signature tan caps. The protesters carried Confederate, Patriot Front, and upside-down U.S. flags.
All right. He's going to go in reading that. I'm going to skip that. I want to get into his opinion on the whole thing, and that's really the most important part here. Here we go. We're going to jump to 2 hours and 47 minutes in.
I will also add, I think the charge that they are feds is basically not true. And as long as I've talked about
this is where he talks about what it means to be a fed. And this is an important piece. He's going to talk about what it means to be a fed. He's also going to talk about like why this sort of thing is not appropriate for this day and age. And I think he's right. I think what we need to do is have a grand strategy. This is what he has been saying for a long time, and I agree. We need to be very careful about what we do and be somewhat secretive about what we do. And as Groypers, as young men, in particular, conservative men, right, who don't identify with anybody on the right, the Republicans don't look out for their young men at all. And I've said this in previous episodes. They don't look out for the young men at all. They young men on the right are persecuted heavily, whereas the young people on the left are energized, going, and the left protects their young people. In fact, they have institutions that actually fund them, where young men on the right don't have any right-wing institutions to help them. This is a very important piece, and Nick is trying to figure out, right, how to get that to change. That's where the change needs to be. It can't just be in these marches. It can't. If you think we're just going to go on the streets or we're going to do stupid things like Dan Blazarian or Kazarian, whatever his name is, and just like run and then like nothing happens, like we need young men to actually go into the system and earn their law degrees. This is where I kind of wish I went to law school. Earn their law degrees, get into the systems, go into politics, high-end jobs, high-end schools, be educated. We need we need high IQ men. Okay. And even more than me, like I took an IQ test. I have like what was it, 132 IQ. I'm above average. Sometimes I stutter on these stupid things because I don't know how to talk. I also have like dyslexia, so like it kicks in when I write emails and shit, but it doesn't stop me from being perspicacious. It doesn't stop me from having deep insight. It doesn't stop me from noticing things or even thinking, or even like learning, dude. My thirst for learning is so deep. Like I honestly, like in my real world, in the business that I work for, like I can't stand these normies, dude. I just can't. Like they all sit around and they talk about sports. And I pretend, I grew up a big Yankee fan, and I pretend to like the late Yankees, and I realize, I have to like act like I love watching a bunch of 23-year-olds make millions of dollars and live in better homes and have sex with hotter women than ever have. Well, I've had some fun, but and some of them pretty hot, and I will say my wife. Well, I'm not going to get into it, but like I don't want to like simp over young men playing sports, but that's like the culture that you have to be in when you're in the business sector or even any other sector. It's like you got to talk normie NPC shit. And so what we're looking for the Groyper movement are men that are not that. They're not NPCs. And this is very important. I will digress. Let's get back to the video and then we'll keep going.
Patriot Front over the years, and I've talked about them many times. I've always said I don't really think the group is a federal operation. I think this is a term that gets thrown around now all the time. Everybody's a Fed. I get called the Fed. Tucker gets called. I call Tucker a Fed. They get called. Everybody gets. Alex Jones get called the Fed. Everybody gets called the Fed. What is the Fed? Well, Fed is short for federal agent, federal informant. That's what it means. And typically we say that in radical politics, we know that our intelligence and law enforcement agencies are very interested in what radical political organizations do. They try to keep them under control because the intelligence and law enforcement agencies are the arm of the uni party. And so in a sense, they want to make sure that we have center right, center left economic and foreign policy. They want to prevent the rise of an uncontrolled, radical ideological movement on either the right or the left. They also want to prevent violence, terrorism, civil conflict, things like that. And so law enforcement and intelligence has an interest in penetrating these groups to see what's going on. And so what they will do is they will send in actual law enforcement officers, undercover, double agents, and they will also take people who have a criminal record, and they will get those people to act as informants in exchange for a lighter sentence or negotiating down their criminal charges. So let's say somebody is in radical politics, they get caught up in some trouble, maybe a gun charge, battery charge, something like this. Law enforcement intelligence will come to them and say, listen, we can wipe the slate clean. All you got to do is keep doing what you're doing and let us know what's going on inside the organization. And they do this because they like to keep tabs. They like to know what's happening. They like the ability to direct or commandeer these organizations at will. They also like to serve as a honeypot for bad actors, people that might want to do violence. Federal agents or informants will try to attract those people to entrap them, and that way they can be imprisoned before they commit acts of violence or something of that nature. That's what that is. And so, when people throw around the word Fed, I think we really need to get back to what that actually means. I think that if someone is talking about political violence, that's a sign that somebody's a honeypot operation for the feds. If somebody is really nosy or has some kind of lengthy criminal background, with a lot of criminal charges, but maybe not a lot of convictions, maybe mysterious legal problems that go away, things like that, that's grounds for suspicion. There's a lot of things of that nature that you might look at somebody a certain way. Now, I would say about Patriot Front, in terms of their relationship with the federal government, I would certainly doubt that the organization.
So let's backtrack for a second. He's saying if somebody has a criminal record and it disappears, that's the big one, right? That's suspect for somebody who's being fed or somebody who seems to be immune. I could tell you somewhere I know some people here where I live in Western PA that they are paid to be a propaganda piece for the left. They push racial hatred against whites, and it's like so it's they're obviously like a paid actor. Like their Instagram has he's in Morocco, he's in Spain, he's in California, he's in Atlanta, he's all over the place. He's like, he's also on Instagram with uh Governor Shapiro, AOC, a bunch of like liberal political figures. I mean, it's so obvious. And then he has an LLC that he gets access to all these different types of political protests. These things, like, you have to be very weary of these things. You have to be careful with these things. So I think that it's the feds are not as obvious as you would think. All right. Everybody calls Nick a fed. Nick calls, he even said it. He calls Tucker a fed. Elon calls Nick a fed. I don't think Nick's a fed. I think Nick has been scrutinized heavily and under investigation by the FBI, which is why I trust him. Just gonna full transparency. This is why I actually trust Nick, is because he is under investigation and highly scrutinized by the FBI. If he wasn't, I'd be worried. If he had some political figures who had money and influence or affluence on the inside to get him past whatever he needed to do and just seems to be on like cheat mode. And everybody who's played video games knows cheat mode, right? If you play GTA 5 and you you put on the cheat mode, you know what life is like being on cheat mode. He's not on cheat mode at all. Like, he is on hard mode, and he's still, I think, by the grace of God, continue to go. Guys like Joe Webman thinks this, right? Other men, Joe Webman's the only one I can think of who's truly backed him, like really hardcore, and I really respect Joe Webman for this, truly. But like, dude, we have to be able to we have to have the ability to decipher who is and who isn't a fed, and this is why it's important to watch this.
Is mostly or run by federal operatives or informants. That being said, any organization of that size, and with their politics, is going to have some law enforcement penetration. That is just what always happens. The Oath Keepers, the Proud Boys, the 3%ers, every radical political organization that has a double or triple digit membership is always going to have at least one confidential informant, because law enforcement intelligence are just very good at what they do. So it's safe to assume that Patriot Front is
very good at what they do.
They probably have some level of law enforcement or intelligence penetration. And I would say that's at the minimum. At the most, you might say it's safe to assume there's somebody like that in the leadership. Possible. It's possible that high-ranking members or people in the leadership have a similar situation. I don't think you can assume that necessarily, but I think there's a likelihood that's the case also.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, I think this gets away from the real problem. And to me, the real problem with Patriot Front that I see is this idea of people that want to just get out and do something.
Here we go. You got to pay attention to this piece, because he's going to tell you exactly why this sort of method doesn't work in today's age and why you need to go and have a grand strategy, a generational strategy, just like the Rothschilds did I watched a Jay Dyer video recently on the Rothschilds. This is what Nick is trying to do, man. And like nobody appreciates this about him. He is trying to give us a long-term strategy game plan. And like I can't figure out for the life of me why people are so stupid, dude. I really can't. Like I was never, I think I was like a 3.0 student in college and grad school. And I can't figure out why none of these 4.5, 4.6 grads, students, I know why. I'm not going to tell you. It's because the whole thing is set up. No, I'm not going to tell you. It's like, why can't they figure this shit out, dude? What is going on? Let's continue before I digress.
And people's idea of just getting out and doing something is bad ideas. People want to get out, put on a uniform, and do a costume parade through the city, yelling slogans and giving speeches. And I see these big public spectacles, these big public demonstrations. And my question is, what is the point? I see on Twitter, everybody praising the demonstration says, finally, people are doing something. The white man is angry and has had enough. And now they're coming to reclaim America. And my question is, what is it exactly that they are doing? Precisely and specifically. Because what I see them doing is meeting up in a rural area, getting dressed in their costumes, getting into U-Haul trucks and riding public transportation, showing up to a public space, marching around in circles, giving their little speech, and then going home. That's what they have done. That's what they are doing. So when people say they're doing something, finally someone is doing something, what is it that they're doing? They're doing a choreographed performance. That is what they are doing. Right. And I guess the bigger question is, what is that really doing? If that's what they're doing, okay, I mean, we understand on its face, they're marching around, they're giving a speech, they're waving their flags, they're wearing their costumes, but what does that actually achieve? What is that directed towards? What is the goal? How does that actually produce change?
Right.
And I have asked this question about every public demonstration since Charlottesville. And this is personal for me because I was at Charlottesville. I was at Charlottesville in 2017, and I got caught up in all that. And I got doxxed, and I dropped out of school because of it, and I got fired from my job because of it. And I was in the front page of the Sun-Times in Chicago, and I became a pariah, and it ruined my career, and it destroyed my social circle. And I looked at that event, and I thought, what did that actually achieve? What did it actually do for anybody? And the people that put on the event, like Richard Spencer and others, Mike Enoch, they couldn't even give a straight answer. They didn't even know. They said things like, well, it's raising the public consciousness. It's raising awareness. And to me, that's just not a good enough answer. On the other hand, when you look at these public demonstrations, what are you missing? Well, every person that attends one of these public demonstrations is taking an enormous risk.
Yep.
They're taking a huge risk, one, because in the worst case scenario, some nut job might shoot and kill them.
Yes.
Some insane left-wing nut job or some black nationalist or some psycho might see them in Boston or DC or Chicago, very liberal cities, Antifa strongholds. They might go home, get a gun, and shoot these guys.
Yeah, worst case scenario. And second worst case scenario is you get terminated from your job, dude, like completely, right? I mean, even what I do here is a risk. Me putting my face here, doing this. The only reason why I do what I do is because I think the only thing I fear most about losing my job is dying somebody who never spoke the truth. I mean, that's like I've been through the bottom of the pits, man. I've been through it. I've been zeroed out, according to the red pill men. Zeroed out, meaning like I lost my life savings. My wife betrayed me. I lost access to my kid, my oldest kid. Like The only other thing that I fear more than that, and I don't even fear that shit anymore. And I have a really successful marriage with beautiful kids now. The only thing I fear more than that now is not standing up for the truth, dying and having to answer to God. Like, what the fuck is like? Why didn't you speak out? And I think to me, if you don't do that, you just think that there is no God. Think about that. Like if you don't if you like prioritize your monetary gain here on planet Earth over, and believe me, I want to make money, and I do, and I want to also help people. I want to help people the most, and I want to be compensated for it so I can provide for my family. It's not provisions is not the priority. Truth is the priority for me. But it's like, dude, like truly, like like if I die and all I ever did was just try to accumulate the most amount of shit for me, it's not a life well worth lived, man. And that's the people I work with. That's the people I work with. Oh my god, dude. Oh, fucking crush it at work, and these people are just like, anyway, let's keep going.
So what do you do then? All these people that say, go and just do something. What are you going to tell the parents of the 22-year-old guy who wanted to go and do something and put on the Lowe's costume, put on the balaclava and the uniform? He gets shot and killed by some leftist.
Yeah.
What do you tell his parents? That's like the worst case scenario. And that's not fear mongering. That's a totally legitimate thing that can happen. There's other scenarios. What happens if some left-wing nut job gets in a physical altercation with these guys? Punches them in the face, provokes them, antagonizes them. And one of the members of the organization gets in a self-defense situation or maybe loses control, isn't disciplined, strikes the guy. Now you're charged with battery. Now your doc's charged with battery. Now you got a civil criminal liability. By the way, this has happened. There was a case like this in Massachusetts, a case like this in Virginia. Patriot Front and its founder, Thomas Rousseau, they've got a $3 million judgment against them in Massachusetts. They got a $500,000 judgment against them in Virginia. And the judgment in Massachusetts also goes against, in Virginia, also goes against the people, rank and file members that participated in the criminal conduct.
Yeah. So that's it. We're going to leave it there. We're 28 minutes in. And I want to talk about how you kind of get the point, man. I digress. You get it. Like, Nick's not live yet. Cool. That's him back there. Oh, dude. Okay. Anyway. So, yeah, let's go ahead and play. What is that, dude? Oh, man. All right, here we go. Third one. And this is how Graham Plattner is about to get Me Too'd. This is crazy. And this is going to cost the Democrat Party the House or the Senate. It's going to cost them the Senate. Like, I thought they were going to take the Senate and the House, like, clear out, and they're not, because they are basically, I'm going to play this. I got to change this thing in the background because I don't want to get a strike here, but go ahead. Here we go.
Anyway, we're going to move on. We're going to get into our final story for the night, our featured story about Graham Plattner. Is this one even really a big surprise? So this is our real news story for the night. I'm sure you've all heard about it, but the story finally broke. The Maine Senate Democrat who is running against Susan Collins in the state of Maine has just been exposed in a major rape scandal. And if you've been following this race at all, if you've been following this candidate, he has had a lot of scandals. He had a scandal cheating on his wife. He had a tattoo that was a reference to the Nazis. He had some social media posts on Reddit talking about how he's a communist and we should murder capitalists. This guy's had a lot of problems and a lot of scandals and a lot of issues. Nevertheless, he won the primary. He is the Democrat nominee for that Senate seat in Maine against Susan Collins. Today, finally, the dam broke. A woman has come forward and accused him of rape for an incident that goes back to 2021. And this is a story. It's from Politico. It says, quote, a woman who dated Maine U.S. Senate candidate Graham Plattner says he forced her to have sex with him nearly 5 years ago, despite her repeated objections, an allegation that Plattner denies. The woman, a 41-year-old Maine resident named Jenny Rassicott, detailed the alleged incident to Politico in 3 interviews over the past 2 weeks. She said she had an on and off relationship with Plattner for more than 2 years before he entered her rural Maine home uninvited one night in late 2021, deeply intoxicated, and forced himself on her while she repeatedly told him to stop. She said she cut off contact with him after telling him the encounter was not consensual. She said, quote, I remember him grabbing my pelvis and being really forceful of me. I remember the specific moment where I thought to myself, like, this is no longer my choice. Plattner denies the allegations. She previously described reckless and unsettling behavior by Plattner to the New York Times, but says she didn't go public with the specific rape claim because she didn't want to be known as a rape victim. And now she does, though. She said she was torn over coming forward in part because she agrees with Plattner politically. In the weeks after the alleged assault, she said she considered going to the police, but struggled with the shock and confusion about what had happened to her and did not file a police report. Classic. Even as time passed, she said she felt uncomfortable potentially telling a police officer about such a personal experience and feared retaliation from Plattner. At first, she confided only in her therapist, who she continues to see. And this is a shame, because Susan Collins is a terrible Republican. She's one of the worst. Always votes against Trump, is in no way, shape, or form even meaningfully right-wing. And so if any Republican needs to go, it's her.
I know, dude. I was kind of pulling for this guy. I was kind of pulling for the Democrats to take the House and the Senate just to see the Donald Trump, who's going to be completely fine, by the way. You know, he doesn't care about us. But just to see him maybe even get, impeached, because he deserves it, dude. That guy, he sold us out. And he did it for all the right reasons for himself, but not for us, dude. I don't know how anybody else can dispute that unless you're some dumb boomer Christian Zionist who still thinks the rapture is going to happen. Good luck if you're one of them. Just save your shit for, if you're just a boomer, just save your opinions. I don't really care.
And I don't like Graham Plattner. I think he's another one of these communists and obviously a degenerate. And I'm not a big fan of his either. Susan Collins really has got to go. She is easily one of, if not the worst Republican that's running for re-election in the Senate. And I would be ecstatic to see her lose the race and for the Republicans to lose the Senate with her. That would be phenomenal. And so it's sad to see that Graham Plattner is being destroyed over this. It's funny, though, because this is just another Me Too sex scandal, just another Me Too fake allegation. So this woman is claiming that 5 years ago, her boyfriend, who she's in a situationship with, on and off, barges into her home and starts being forceful with her. She says in an interview that what she said to him when he starts initiating sex is, my back hurts. I don't feel like it. They have sex. She doesn't even kick him out of the house. She goes to bed with him in the same bed. He stays the night. She sleeps with him in the same bed. She wakes up in the morning and says, hey. She wakes up in the morning after this traumatic rape that she needs therapy for. She wakes up. Hey, you remember what happened last night? That you raped me? And he goes, no, I don't remember. And then he goes home. She continues seeing him for a month later waiting to see if she's going to get pregnant because she wasn't on birth control. She continues seeing him for a month after the fact. And then when she realizes she wasn't pregnant, she says, hey, by the way, when you had sex with me all that time ago, that wasn't consensual. We're over. She later texts a friend who is interested in dating him. She says he's a charming guy, intelligent, charismatic. She goes, but he's a little recklessly consensual sometimes. Recklessly sort of consensual sometimes, she says. This is how she describes her rapist. No police report. She comes forward with the allegation years after the fact. She tells the New York Times he had inappropriate conduct, but she didn't say it was a rape until after he won the primary. And now that it looks like he might actually get the seat and win the election and become a senator, oh, now it's a rape. Okay. Now it's a rape. And so this is just one of the most ridiculous Me Too.
Yeah, dude, it's like we're back in what, 2016, 17, 18. It's like, come on, dude. Like, we supposed to buy this bullshit? Like, we know women are going to get upset about this. We know that. They're going to be all indignant because the only thing women, love more than they hate accountability is indignation, dude. Like, that's just, and this is just the reality. Like, this guy was sleeping with this woman, and she basically decided she was going to recall her authority or her consent after she had sex with him. And we have completely legalized this in the country. And more so, even before you go to due process, your career is over. Like, come on, man, give us a fucking break over here. Like, at some point, if we're going to remain the best country in the world, we're going to need to stop this sort of thing. And it's got to happen. And it's going to only happen when the boomer generation dies. The boomer generation is the one that wheeled in all this feminism. They love this shit, dude. They're just like, equality, egalitarianism. They're the ones who love this shit, dude. They really are. So that's the only way we're gonna get rid of it, dude. We have to wait another 10 years. We have to. This is destroying the Democrat Party. This is destroying the Republican Party. Like, I was hoping to see the Democrats win. I really was. And you guys are fucking this shit up. I rest my case.
Stories I've ever heard of all time. You've heard some pretty ridiculous Me Too, rape allegations, sexual assault. This one really takes the cake.
Yeah.
So first of all, and listen, I've never had a relationship. Maybe I don't understand how this works. How is it that someone you're actively having sex with can rape you? I really don't get that.
Well, if you lack accountability, you can claim anything you want. Bro, this is why egalitarianism is dying. It's like you ladies are never going to figure this shit out. This is why the young men have left all the institutions, are doing it on their own for your own good, for our own good. We need men and women to get along. We really do. Like, we don't hate you. We love you. We really do. We think you're like the greatest things on planet Earth. You think we suck. Well, men need to step up and do this and that. Well, maybe you need to stop making the choices you're making. I'm trying to be PG on this shit, so I'm going to keep playing the video.
I understand if it was maybe forced or you weren't in the mood, you didn't feel like it. This is a guy that she's having sex with for some time. He comes to her house drunk and has sex. I understand it made her feel uncomfortable. I understand maybe she didn't want it in that moment. But it's not like she doesn't want it overall. You're having casual sex with this guy in a non-committal way. You're in a situationship with him. Are you really going to say, well, I wasn't really feeling like it in that moment? And even though we spent the whole night together, and even though I cooked him breakfast the next morning, and even though I stayed with him the rest of the month, and even though I told my friend he's a charming guy, that actually it was a traumatic, forceful rape, I just find that really hard to believe. And so sadly, the Democrats are going to be hoisted upon their own petard. They're, once again, as always, going to lose. Just like Harvey Weinstein before this and others, Kevin Spacey, they're going to lose one of the greats, one of their heroes, because of their own ridiculous feminist Me Too witch hunt mentality. And now it looks like not only is Graham Plattner going to exit the race, everybody's calling on him to resign, including the former chair of the DNC, Chuck Schumer, the Democrat Party leadership, Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders, Ro Khanna. All the major Democrats are calling for him to exit the race. He's got about another week to leave. And Democrats have, I think, until the end of the month to find a replacement. He's almost surely going to leave the race. And I think that all but guarantees that Susan Collins wins the seat. This might be the swing race that determines control over the Senate.
Here it is.
Right now, the way it's shaking out, it could be 50-50. If it goes 50-50, the Republicans retain control because controlling the White House, they have the vice president who acts as a tiebreaker in the event of a 50-50 split. This might be the race that actually cost the Democrats not only the Senate seat in Maine,
there it is,
but also the Senate majority overall.
It is costing,
but it may shape out and work out that that's the case.
Well, there you have it. The Democrats are fucking themselves over again. Pardon my French. But they are basically destroying themselves. They can't help themselves, dude. Here's a guy who had sex with a woman, and somehow she decides that one night, even though she's had sex with him before, had sex with him after, that she didn't want it. Well, here you go, Democrats. You're about to fucking lose the Senate. Have fun with that. Have fun with that. I mean, is this a rape charge? Can you guys not figure out a way to actually honor real rape victims? And I've known some, man. This is what makes me angry. I've known some. Jesus. Anyway, so that's pretty much it for tonight. We're 42 minutes in, and we're gonna call it a night, man. I appreciate you guys coming in. Project Aletheia here. We're going to be doing the America First shows at 10 p.m. I know I started really late. I said 10 o'clock. It's going to be in between 10 and 11. That's when we're going to start it. That's the reality. You can see in my chat, my X account. Excuse me. And also my link, my Instagram account. And that's pretty much it, man. I appreciate you guys so much. I hope that you guys do subscribe to my channel. And that's going to be pretty much it. So we'll get there, man. We're going to keep doing it. We're going to just do the work. And if you're one of the I have 105 subscribers. If you're 106, one day you're going to be able to say, I was Project Alethia's 106 before he got big. So, peace. Love you guys.